Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm just admitting everybody now. Just taking a few seconds. Welcome to those who are joining us. Hello. A few more seconds for everybody's screens to open. Here. Okay. So hello, everybody. This is the Employment Options for International Students workshop. I hope you all are here. You're an F1 or J1 international student at UCF. This is presented by the UCF Global International Student and Scholars Office. So we will start this presentation now. Go into the next slide. So as you can see here, my name is Nicole Stelter. I'm one of the Immigration Program Advisors at UCF Global, and I also have my fellow wonderful staff members. If you guys go ahead, how about Dan, since you're the first picture, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Happy to. Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dan Mallon. I'm International Program Advisor, and I'm looking forward to getting into this workshop with you all.
Sherry?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sherry, and I'm also one of the International Program Advisors here at UCF Global, and we are certainly here to help you out. So we hope you get a lot from this webinar.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gisela, also one of the International Program Advisors. Excited to talk about all the different employment options you guys have as F1 visa holders.
Nice. So really excited to have you guys here. I do ask for the rest of the presentation, if you could please, you're welcome to post your questions in the chat, but if you can keep yourselves on mute, feel free to keep your videos on if you would like, but just to let you all know, we are recording this presentation today. So going on to the next, this is just kind of what we're going to talk about today, agenda. First, we're going to start off and talk about how to obtain a social security number. What is a social security number? Then we'll talk about how to get on-campus employment. And then we'll talk about off-campus employment options for those in F1 status, which is CPT, curricular practical training, OPT, optional practical training, then STEM extension of OPT, severe academic hardship. And for those of you who are J1 students, we'll touch on academic training options for you. So here, first, we will talk about social security numbers. So Sherry, would you like to take that away?
Yes, I'll jump right in here. So if you do not already have a social security number, if you work in the United States, you must apply for a social security number. It is a permanent number. Once you're assigned one, it's your number for life. It's a 9-digit number, and it's assigned by the US government. And that helps them track things like scholarships, employment, taxes. One thing to keep in mind is your social security number is a very confidential number. You should not share a social security number with anyone who does not need that number for employment or tax purposes. So keep it safe, keep it secure, and make sure people do not have access to your social security number if they don't need it. That's one of the ways people can commit identity fraud, is if they get a hold of your social security number. To be eligible for a social security number, remember you must have either an on-campus job offer, or you have to be authorized for off-campus work. And that's done through our office. Keep in mind your SEVIS record has to be active, so you must be maintaining status. And to apply for a social security number, they only do appointments in person, and appointments must be scheduled. The local social security office does not take walk-ins any longer. And we'll start going on into some of the types of employment available. And we're going to start with on-campus employment. So the different kinds of employment, like Nicole had mentioned previously, we've got on-campus, CPT, OPT, STEM extension, severe economic hardship, and then of course, academic training for our J1 students. And we'll start off by looking at on-campus employment, some of the specific ideas to keep in mind. So on-campus employment is a great way to do lots of things. Gain job skills. You can often find on-campus employment, on-campus jobs that are somehow related to your major to give you some experience right away and to give you some experience in your field of study. You can develop your leadership skills. You can move up in a position. It also gives you something to put on a resume. A lot of students might not have a lot of work experience to note on their resume. So on-campus employment can help you to start building your resume. In addition, the UCF campus is so large and there are so many people here. So it can help you feel connected to campus. If you're working on campus, you're getting to know your coworkers, you're getting to know students and staff that come in. So you meet new people, you make new friends. And of course, what we're all happy about, you earn a little bit of money to put in your pockets. So what's considered on-campus employment? We often get questions about this. So keep in mind, on-campus employment, primarily it's employment that takes place on campus and you're employed by UCF. So you're paid by UCF, it's educationally associated with UCF, you're on the UCF payroll. So some examples of that are GTAs, GRAs, working in the UCF libraries, working in the different academic and administrative offices. Remember, every department at UCF has an administrative office, an academic office. Also, the UCF Recreation and Wellness Center. So those are all examples of on-campus employment where you're paid by UCF. You're on the UCF payroll. The other option for on-campus employment is where you're working on campus, but you're being paid by a third party, but you have to be providing a direct service to students. So that can still qualify as on-campus employment if it's actually taking place on UCF campus and you're providing a direct service to students. And some of those common examples would be the UCF dining services, because keep in mind, those are provided by Aramark. So it's not UCF, but it is considered on-campus employment. The restaurants and coffee shops that are located on campus, and of course the UCF bookstore. So there are limitations to on-campus employment. Keep in mind, when you were granted a visa, it was to come to the US to be a student and to study. During the fall and spring semesters, you can work up to 20 hours a week for on-campus employment. If you work more than that during the semester while classes are in session, it is a violation of your status. And that can have very severe consequences up to and including termination of your SEVIS record. During summer break and winter break, you can work more than 20 hours a week on campus employment. The approval process is quite simple. If you are an F1 student, you do not require additional authorization from our office. You just contact the department, you get a job offer, you have your job offer letter, and you're good to go. If you're a J1 student, you do have to receive approval from UCF Global, and that would be the immigration advisors that handle our J1 students, and that would be either Christina or Zach. So J1 students do have a little extra step to get through, but it's certainly not an insurmountable step. So you would just email your request to either Christina or Zach, and they can help you with that. So just some special considerations, ideas to keep in mind. As I stated previously, you have to maintain status with your visa in order to be eligible for on-campus employment. That means registering in the minimum at least the minimum number of credits. That means not doing any other employment that would be unlawful. So you must maintain status, making normal progress to your program. Keep in mind, on-campus employment must end by completion of your program. So for example, let's say you're scheduled to graduate this semester, and that would be on May 7th. If you're doing on-campus employment, your on-campus employment has to end by May 7th if you're graduating. Students who are starting an academic program during the summer semester can only work part-time. So remember on that previous slide, we talked about during the summer break and winter break, students can work full-time on campus. But if the summer is your very first semester, you can only work part-time. And if students who are employed on campus, they do their hiring paperwork with the Employment and Taxation Group here at UCF Global. So you just call the UCF Global front desk to schedule an appointment with Employment and Taxation, and they'll help you fill out all of the required paperwork. And keep in mind, taxes will be automatically deducted from your paycheck. So the US government does stick their hand in your pocket there and take out some taxes automatically. There are some great places to find on-campus jobs. If some of you are familiar with Handshake, which is the system that Experiential Learning and the Career Center use, some jobs are posted there. You can also contact the different UCF departments and offices that you might be interested in working for to ask if they have jobs available. I would say first check their website, because a lot of the different UCF departments will post their available jobs on their website. And just to keep in mind, some of the UCF departments that tend to hire the most international students would be your academic departments and offices. Of course, the Recreation and Wellness Center, the UCF bookstore, keep in mind that can only be the on-campus locations. The UCF dining services, again, only that are located actually on campus. And then the libraries and housing and residence life also tend to hire a lot of international students as well.
Sorry about that. Thank you
All
very
right.
much,
No
Sherry.
worries.
So we're going to transition then into off-campus employment. And so here to the next one. So international students are only permitted to work off campus with prior employment authorization, right? So for on campus, like Sherry mentioned, you as an F1 student, you don't need any authorization from the international office. J1 students, you do, but for off-campus employment, all off-campus employment must have work authorization before you start working. So again, those types of legal off-campus employment authorizations are CPT, curricular practical training, OPT, optional practical training, STEM extension, severe academic hardship. Those were all for F1 students. And for JACE is academic training. For those of you who are in the Pathway program or IEP students, you are not eligible for off-campus employment at this time. Once you become degree seeking, then you will be eligible for off-campus employment. So yeah, so just note that you won't become degree seeking until you have that official I-20 for that degree program. So we're going to move on here to CPT, curricular practical training. Dan, would you like to take over?
Absolutely. Thanks, Nicole. All right, let's talk about curricular practical training, which is a great option for off-campus employment internship opportunities. So first of all, let's define what is curricular practical training, or as we'll be referring to it moving forward, CPT. It's employment that is considered an integral part of your established curriculum. So it's really important to understand first and foremost that as international students, your primary purpose for coming into the US is to be a student, to study at UCF. So any kind of employment, internship, cooperative education, things like that, they need to be integrated into that curriculum. CPT is for something that would be a required internship or practicum offered either by a sponsoring employer or through cooperative agreements with the school. And it's tied into your enrollment and your academic program as students at UCF. So what are the key points of curricular practical training, or CPT? CPT covers off-campus employment. So everything that Sherry was discussing about on-campus employment is entirely different. Off-campus employment, you absolutely, as Nicole was saying, need prior authorization before engaging in. CPT is approved on a semester or term basis. So when we're talking about CPT approvals, it's for the current spring semester, the upcoming summer semester, the following fall semester. If, for example, you were to have an internship with a company that started this semester in the spring and went through the summer, you would need to keep in mind that you would have to apply again before your spring semester CPT authorization ends if you want an unbroken approval to continue to work at that internship through the summer. For students on CPT, they must maintain full-time enrollment during the fall and spring semesters. The only exception, for example, might be during the summer, since that is considered a vacation period for continuing students in active status. So no full-time enrollment would be required except for the cooperative education or internship course associated with your CPT approval. CPT can be approved for paid employment, for unpaid employment. The US government considers unpaid internships employment for immigration purposes. So just because it's unpaid does not mean that you don't need CPT authorization. And CPT can be authorized either for a full-time position, and the US government, again, considers full-time to be anything over 20 hours per week, so 21 hours or more per week, or for part-time CPT authorization, which would be less than 20 hours per week. There are a couple of important limitations to talk about when we are discussing CPT authorization while you're a student at UCF. So the most important thing to keep in mind is that CPT authorization is not a general work authorization. It is for employment that is directly related to your major field of study. So it can't be directly related to a minor that you might be interested in or to a cool class that you took. It must be related to the degree that you are seeking at UCF. In order to apply for CPT, you must have a job offer that is directly related to that field of study. And keep in mind that CPT is unlimited, so you can apply for CPT as many semesters or terms as you want. But keep in mind that you cannot accrue more than 365 days of full-time CPT as a student at UCF and still be eligible for optional practical training, which is a separate work authorization after you graduate. And we will get into OPT or optional practical training shortly after this section. Finally, keep in mind that CPT is for full-time enrolled students, so CPT is not available after graduation. What is the process for applying for CPT? So first, you need to have a job offer, and then the authorization process that you're going through occurs in between the time that you are offered an internship or employment offer and before you start working. So after you get your job offer, you can complete the CPT application on our website. Then you obtain the necessary approvals. Typically, the application will require, at a minimum, the recommendation from an academic advisor, and if required, you would have to maybe get an additional recommendation from experiential learning if the employment is not a required component of your program, but just academically recommended because it's a good opportunity. Then you would have to also enroll in an internship course through experiential learning and get a recommendation from the EL coordinator. And then finally, once you have the CPT application done, you can send us the completed CPT application packet with the recommendations from your advisors and the job offer letter to intladvising@ucf.edu. And we will review it and approve it or reach out to you if we need additional information. And then finally, here's just a breakdown of the timeline for when you need to think about applying for CPT. This information is right in the CPT application packet, and it's also available on the global.ucf.edu website under the employment tab. But for spring 2022, we are into the spring semester. So we are quickly approaching the last day to apply tomorrow. If your internship might be a recommended internship opportunity, but not required. So please think about that. We do have a spring B session for internships that might start later in the semester. That can be a great option if you get a job opportunity a little bit later. If you have any questions about the CPT employment deadlines, feel free to reach out to us at INTL Advising, and we will be happy to address those questions. And with that, I think I will hand it off.
Absolutely, thank you. So now we're going to transition into talking about OPT, optional practical training. And Gisela, would you like to take this over?
Yeah, so talking about optional practical training, or also known as OPT, and it is an option after you graduate. So for what is OPT? So OPT is authorized employment that's directly related to your major area of study. So it takes place after you graduate, and it gives you a whole year, 365 days of unemployment. And then for students that are in a STEM major, and that's either science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, you may qualify for an additional 24 months of authorization. And we'll go into STEM extension a little bit as well. But it is a great opportunity if you find a really good paid opportunity and to continue working for an additional 2 years. So for OPT, this all goes through the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, or better known as USCIS. So it's not a process that we do, but we assist you with. It all goes through USCIS, and they are the ones that approve the employment authorization. If you are approved, will get what's called an employment authorization document. It actually looks like a card, so I know some students tend to get confused with that, and you can see what it kind of looks like on the screen, and it's going to indicate how long you can work, so your authorization period. And like I mentioned in the earlier slide, it's going to be for up to a year. For the most part, it usually takes USCIS 90 to 100 days to process an application for OPT. However, ever since the rollout of the online application, we have been seeing a shorter wait time. So we highly recommend applying online, which we'll go into just the how to do that in a little bit. But it is faster. So if you do have the option to apply online, the capability to do so, highly recommend it. For OPT, there are different types of OPT. So there's pre-completion OPT that happens prior to you graduating, and then post-completion, which is what I'll be speaking about. And then of course, like mentioned, STEM extension OPT, which is an additional 24 months after your OPT ends if you are in a STEM degree. So what is post-completion OPT, which is what we're going to be speaking about? So it is, again, employment that you are authorized to work after you graduate. The earliest that you can apply for post-completion OPT is 90 days prior to your graduation. So once you hit those 90 days, you are allowed to apply for OPT. If you apply any earlier than that, could cause some issues as well as a denial. So you definitely want to wait until that time. And then the earliest that you can start working is right after graduation. So after you graduate, you have what's called a 60-day grace period, and you can start working anytime during the 60-day grace period, which includes right after graduation. Of course, you do have to wait until you're approved for OPT. So if you choose, for example, a day right after your graduation, you graduated May 7th and you chose to start May 8th, but USCIS is still pending your application, you wouldn't be eligible to work just yet. And then kind of like CPT, on OPT, your employment has to directly be related to your major. So we get a lot of questions about other types of employment. You have to justify being able to work where it is that you decided to work. You're going to be eventually reporting this employment, and you're going to have to justify how it relates to your degree. OPT can also be paid or unpaid. We all want to be paid ultimately. However, unpaid work also counts. So it can be volunteer work, it could be an internship that's paid or unpaid. So lots of options for while you're on OPT. And you don't need a job in order to apply for OPT. You can apply and then start looking for employment while you wait for your OPT to be approved. So the application process for OPT, there's a few steps and probably even more steps in between these steps, but we're here to help you out with everything. So the most simple way to go about it is first enrolling in the OPT web course that we have. We'll review all the material, complete all the quizzes, and once you do that, you'll be able to submit a OPT application form through MyNTL portal, which is located in the web course. This basically shows us that you completed everything. We'll be able to review all your documents, make sure that everything looks good. And if everything does look good, you'll be notified that your OPT I-20 is ready. So when you are applying for OPT, you need a specific OPT I-20, where it's basically us endorsing you for post-completion OPT. And then we'll schedule a quick review where we will go over your documents. This is usually via Zoom, so we're still in the time where we're using Zoom, and we'll be able to go over the documents, some quick questions, make sure everything looks good, so that way you can submit your application. On the screen, it does say mail your application to USCIS, but how I mentioned, you are able to apply online and submit your application online. So again, a really good option. That means you don't have to go to the post office, and it all gets started processing right away. And you can see what the OPT web course kind of looks like. There's going to be a few modules that you'll have to complete, lots of really good detailed information on the entire OPT process. So everything from how to apply, what documents you need, how to acquire these documents, and also frequently asked questions as well. Everything is on there, and it also includes screenshots of what it looks like to apply. So whether you choose to apply online or via mail, it'll have the examples there for you. Again, this web course, the link is located on the UCF Global website. So if you are nearing the time when you can apply for OPT, let's say you're graduating this semester, you can go ahead and sign yourself up for this web course and start working through the modules. So what happens next? So let's say you completed your application, you submitted everything online. If you did it online, you will receive a receipt notice that you can download right away. If you decide to complete your application via mail and you send everything off through the post office, then it'll take a few more weeks for you to receive your receipt notice. And then again, traditionally, it takes 3 months or 90 days for your application to be processed by USCIS. We've been seeing it be a lot quicker with the online process. So if that's the case, you might be receiving a response within a month or so. But however, what will be mailed out to you is your EAD card, your employment authorization document. That will be going to the address that you provided on your application. And then, of course, once you receive your employment authorization document or your EAD card and the dates listed have started, then you are eligible to start working right away. So there are still reporting requirements and things that a lot of responsibility that you have, even though you're not in school, you have even more responsibilities. So once you receive your EAD card, email us a copy of the front and the back of the card within 10 days of receiving it. So you can see our email address on the screen, inteladvising@ucf.edu. Email it to us. And then if you have employment, you already have something secured, you're going to complete what's called the OPT and STEM extension reporting form. So this form, which is also located on the UCF Global website or also in the web course, which you will continue to have access to even after you graduate. And that form, you'll complete it for every employment you have, which will include information such as the start and the end date, the address. Let's say you also move, you also have to report that as well. If you change your name, if your visa status changes as well, you have to update us, and anything related to your employment as well. Your supervisor, how it relates to your degree, is it full-time or part-time? And if you plan to stop your OPT and depart the US, or if you decide to enroll in another degree program, you will also use this form to update us to any changes that happen. So we are required to report this information directly to CVIS. So it's very important that you report to us any changes, or if nothing has changed, or just make sure that you keep us up to date, because all of this goes directly onto CVIS and they can check that at any moment. And while on OPT, there is what I like to call one of the main rules is this 90 days of unemployment. You're only permitted to accrue up to 90 days of unemployment. And this unemployment clock starts from the start date that's listed on your EAD card. So if, let's say your start date arrives and you have no employment, then that's when you begin accruing 90 days of unemployment. Same thing goes for, let's say, for example, you have an internship and the internship was only for 3 months and you don't have anything lined up right afterwards, you start accruing days of unemployment afterwards. If you accrue more than 90 days of unemployment, you are and would be out of status, and you either have to start making plans of what you're going to do next, whether that's departing the US or possibly starting a new degree program if you want to continue studying here in the US. Reach out to us if this is you, if you come across some difficulties, and we can go over what options you might have.
All right, thank you so much, Gisela, and everyone else. So now we're going to move on. Many of you are still in undergraduate degrees or Pathway or IEP or J. And so STEM extension is well into the future. So we're going to touch up a little bit on it, but it's going to be a brief gloss of it. So if you have any additional questions after this presentation, feel free to let us know. But the STEM extension is after you've completed that 1-year OPT. Again, this is only for F1 students. For the STEM extension, this is for those who are in a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. It's an additional 24-month extension after the OPT has been completed. And so the STEM extension is available to F1 students who are currently on post-completion OPT, have earned a qualifying degree in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and those whose employment meets some additional requirements. So your employer does need to have certain things that they do for the requirements in order to be eligible for the STEM extension. You must be currently employed or have an offer letter from a company registered that's E-verified. And then you must apply before your OPT employment ends, but not earlier than 90 days before your OPT expires. Do know that once your OPT ends, you are no longer eligible to apply for the STEM extension. You and your employer must complete the I-983 training plan together and then submit that with your application to us. Students approved for STEM OPT are eligible for an additional 60 days of unemployment. Like Gisela talked about, you get that 90 days of unemployment that you can accrue on OPT. But if you didn't use any of those 90 days, then you'll have an additional 60 days of unemployment while on STEM extension. If you did use up those 90 days on OPT, you would still then be eligible for those 60 days of unemployment on STEM extension. So if you didn't use it all, you get 150 days of unemployment on STEM extension. So how do you apply for the STEM extension? Very similar to OPT. You enroll on the STEM OPT web course on our website. Then you submit the UCF Global STEM extension application through MyINTL. Link is in the web course. And UCF Global will review your documents and then send you a new Form I-20 with a recommendation for STEM extension. Then you make sure you review your application and then you submit it to USCIS. Like Gisela said, for OPT, same thing for STEM. You could mail it, but we're now suggesting to submit online. It's easier, right? So that's the STEM extension. So we're going to move on to severe economic hardship employment. Once again, this is only for F1 students. Only certain individuals may be eligible for this. So severe economic hardship is for students, F1 students, who are experiencing severe economic hardship due to unforeseen changes in their financial circumstances after you've arrived to the US. So you may be able to apply. It's very similar to OPT in the sense that you get that work authorization card when you apply for severe economic hardship work authorization. You must have been in F1 status for at least 1 academic year, and that's F1 status in a degree-seeking program. Unfortunately, Pathway and IEP students are not eligible for the severe academic hardship. This is, again, F1 students in degree-seeking program. You have to be in that program for at least 1 academic year. It's a fall and the spring semester. You must be in good academic standing, be enrolled full-time, and demonstrate that the employment will not interfere with your ability to maintain full-time enrollment. Then you do have to document that the employment is absolutely necessary so that you can avoid that severe academic hardship due to those unforeseen circumstances beyond your control. That additional documentation you need to show for on-campus employment opportunities are not available to you. So you will have to also exhaust that resource and make sure you've applied for on-campus jobs before approaching this academic hardship employment authorization. So if you are interested, we do have the link here. The link is also located on our website at global.ucf.edu for the severe academic hardship application checklist. Once you've reviewed it and collected your documents, you will send your application to intladvising@ucf.edu. We'll review your documents and send you a new Form I-20. And then you will submit your full application to USCIS. So this is separate. This is called Special Student Relief, or SSR. It is correlated with the severe academic hardship, but this is only for certain individuals from different countries. So if you're a citizen of Haiti, Venezuela, Myanmar, Burma, Yemen, or Syria, you would be potentially eligible to apply for the SSR benefit, but you do have to meet certain criteria for both SSR as well as severe academic hardship. So you will have had to be lawfully resided in the US for the dates indicated by the Federal Register notice for your specific country. You need to be enrolled full-time and currently maintaining F1 status in a degree-seeking program. And you're currently experiencing severe academic hardship. The benefits, though, of SSR is that you have the ability to work on campus more than the allotted 20 hours per week while you're in courses and enrolled full-time. You have the ability then to enroll below the full-time if you were working more than 20 hours per week. Then you'll also have the ability to work off campus more than 20 hours per week if you're granted the severe academic hardship employment from USCIS. And there's other certain eligibility requirements for those severe academic hardship employment can be waived if you're eligible for the SSR. If you have any questions or you'd like to apply, please email us at intladvising@ucf.edu. And then last but not least is our J1 students. If you're still a J student hanging on in our presentation here, let's talk briefly about academic training. So academic training is only for those who are in J1 program. It's an employment benefit that allows J1 students to work in any job that is directly related to your major. Academic training can be granted pre or post graduation or completion of program. And it is typically used post completion of your program, so after you're done with your program for J. Academic training is authorized for an 18-month period or the length of time your academic program is, whichever is less. Some of you may be here for only 6 months, some of you may be here for the full 12 months. So students who have earned a PhD may apply for the additional 18-month period of academic training, totaling to 36 months of academic training. J students do not need to apply to USCIS for employment authorization. All you need is to request for the academic training and we will get you a new DS 2019 with the authorization for you for that. And you must request that before the DS 2019 has completed, before your completion of your J1 program. So do make sure if you, unfortunately it's after, you will no longer then be eligible for academic training. So make sure to submit your request to us before the end of your program. So this is just a quick timeline. Secure a job offer in your field of study, then complete the application found on our website at global.ucf.edu. You'll obtain approval and a letter of support from your academic department or academic advisor or internship coordinator. And then you submit the completed academic training application and job offer letter to UCF Global, and we'll provide you with that DS 2019. Again, you'll be working with Christina Khan or Zach Saloon on that. So we are now officially done with our presentation. We will now like to open it up. I know there was a few questions in the chat box. But yeah, are there any questions that you may have, or were there any questions in the chat box that we weren't able to address? Just give a few more minutes. Okay, well, if everyone does not have any questions, we will then stop the presentation. Oh, we have one coming through. Okay, you're going to be finishing your pathway program this semester, and you're able to apply for an internship for the coming summer. For CPT and off-campus internship, no, unfortunately, you would not be eligible right away. You must be in a degree program for at least a full academic year, a fall and a spring, before you can be eligible to apply for a CPT off-campus employment. So if you're going to be starting the degree program in summer 2022, you would not be eligible for CPT until summer 2023. Good question, though. How long does it usually take for a Social Security application? Sherry, would you like to take that one, since you talked about Social Security?
Sure. So because they are only accepting appointments nowadays, students have expressed to us that it's taking quite a long time to get in touch with Social Security on the phone to make an appointment. So it might take you several days, even up to a week, to actually get through to the Social Security office via phone to make an appointment. Once they're scheduling appointments, they're usually a couple weeks out from what I'm hearing, 2 to 3 weeks out. And when you leave their office, they will actually give you a letter that shows you've applied for your Social Security number, so that you can present to your employer. And then I believe it usually takes about 30 days for the Social Security card to be mailed to you.
Sherry. Good question. All right, next question. If I already have a Social Security number from a previous job, can I still use that? Absolutely. Once you have a Social Security number, that is the one that you use for the rest of the time that you were ever inside the US until you're never here, right? Social Security, it's one time only. So you have that one and you'll have to use it for every employment that you have here inside the US. Good question. So you don't have to apply for another one. If I start my OPT in May 2022 and work for the entire year after, I would need to transfer to another program or school if I want to start that new program in the fall. Would that be okay? Yeah, Gisela, do you want to take that one? Or do you want me to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So, okay, just to kind of repeat the question. So if you start your OPT this May and you complete your entire year, 12 months, so just to put that out there, after you complete your OPT, you also have another grace period. So an additional 60 days to kind of figure out what you want to do next. However, of course, it's always good to start a little bit before that, thinking about what you want to do as it gets closer to your OPT end date. And if you decide that you want to transfer to another school or enter another program, you technically have to enroll and have a new I-20, meet all the requirements within that 60-day grace period, and start the program within 5 months. So let's say if you complete it in May, that'll probably be your end date as well. You'll be in time to probably start another program in the fall. But of course, reach back out to us to let us know if anything changes in your plan, so that way we can discuss it further.
Absolutely, thank you. So I know the next question was, where can I find this recording for the meeting? after this. You can find it on our global YouTube channel. So I believe if you just go to YouTube and type UCF Global, you'll find our UCF Global's YouTube channel, and it should be on there within about 24 hours. Good question. And Sherry just posted the Social Security number information, including, I believe, the study in the States and our SSN on our website. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording now. Oh, hold on, never mind. One more minute. We've got another question. To work on CPT, does my college have to explicitly require me to have internship experience to graduate, or just the fact that my internship relates to my major would be enough to qualify for CPT? Dan, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Manuela, if the internship in question is directly related to a degree, and you have been enrolled for at least one full academic year in active status, then you should go ahead and apply. It doesn't need to be required for you to complete your degree, as long as it is recommended by your academic advisor. That should be fine. If it's recommended, you'll also need to get a recommendation and enroll yourself in a 1-credit internship course through experiential learning. The information and instructions about how to do this are right on the CPT application packet. So you can access that form through our website, global.ucf.edu, download the CPT application packet and follow the instructions right there in the form.